I believe that the new Predator Badlands movie is hiding a Xenomorph, and new evidence has come to light to support this theory. Either the director of this movie has lost his mind, is on crack cocaine, or he is planning something big. Apparently there's a prequel comic coming out a couple days after the movie's cinematic release, which we're going to get to exactly why the timing of that lines up the way it does. But in this prequel comic, this is the cover. Apparently this is the official cover. I saw on Twitter that a fan made this cover, and it got me very confused as to what the being in this cover that the Predator is fighting truly is. But regardless, the plot of this prequel comic is apparently this. The young YAUTJA warrior, Dek as we know him, is given a seemingly simple task by his father to retrieve a piece of technology from a derelict spaceship that crashed years ago. Inside, however, is an ancient and deadly threat that lies in waiting. Ooh, a derelict ship with an ancient threat inside. Maybe more than one ancient threat inside. Who knows? Sound a bit fucking familiar, y'all? It sounds familiar to me. Now, we already know that there's connections to the alien universe, with Weyland-Yutani being apparent in the Predator Badlands trailer, okay? Not only do we see the property on the planet that the story takes place in, but we have a goddamn synthetic in it, which we're gonna get to. According to the director, Badlands is the first Predator movie to draw inspiration heavily from the comic books. We already know there's a lot of lore with predators and aliens in the comic books, don't we? So it's worth great delight that you and I now get to look at splash the pages from the mind. Okay, blah, 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 whatever. Dek is kicking ass in his very own comic book and is a dream come true. Okay, whatever. The rest of the information in that quote is not relevant. But the comic books. So we're going into some more lore. Here, what's an even better quote. A young predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally in Thea being Ella Fanning's character, the synthetic from Weyland, and embarks on a treacherous journey into the search of the ultimate adversary. Now, most people when thinking of the ultimate adversary, an apex predator, think of the Xenomorph because it's the perfect organism, right? Now, taking place shortly between the events of Predator Badlands, the comic explores the film's bold new approach to the Predator franchise storytelling, introducing readers to Dek and other characters in this universe. There have been many quotes like this saying that the director is taking a swing with this one. He's going boldly. Apparently they're diving into some more lore and going into places that you wouldn't think a Predator movie would go to. The comic book comes out 5 days later from the movie's release date. Why? You would think that releasing the comic book beforehand would make sense because it's a prequel and we should read it so we know context going into the movie, right? No, because they're hiding something within the film that's very important to the comic book, and the comic book will fucking spoil it if you read it before the film's release. They did this with Alien Romulus. They introduced a prequel comic that showcases the events of Weyland finding the original Xenomorph from the first Alien movie, finding it in that hibernation structure it was in, taking it, and we see the events of what happens there with Ash and everybody, right? Performing an autopsy on this alien and everything goes to shit after, leading to the events to Alien Romulus, right? That's a very important thing that you don't want spoiled before your film, which tells me they're hiding something significant within the Predator Badlands film that's not in the trailers, and they don't want the comic book to spoil it because it will lead directly into the comic book and that ancient derelict ship and technology that Dek was ordered to find. And I believe that they're going to showcase whatever this connection is in the middle of the film, like they did with Alien Romulus when we get the reveal of the Ash synthetic narrating to them basically exposition what happened when they got the Xenomorph, how they got the pathogen from it, all that shit. I guarantee you there's going to be a reference to a fucking Xenomorph in the middle of this film or towards the end, okay? And that's where we might get our first look at what happened between a YAUTJA and a Xenomorph, okay? Now, my only question that throws this entire theory off is this. This Predator Badlands cover, what the fuck is that? We've never seen this thing. It looks like some kind of biomechanical arm from an alien race, and we haven't seen it before. If they are going to an engineer's derelict spaceship, the Juggernaut spaceship, is this a new form of weaponry and tech that we haven't seen from an engineer before? I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest. This looks completely non-engineer in the way it looks. Could this be the ultimate creature that is fighting on the new planet it's been sent to in Predator Badlands? Is that what it is? Maybe. Maybe this is the apex predator he's trying to fight. I don't know. Who knows? Regardless, if it does have anything to do with the actual technology and ship he's trying to find, then my entire Xenomorph theory is probably fucked. Now, Another quote by the director. This is so important. One of the cool things about the movies that were on YAUTJA Prime, there's a lot in this movie from the extended universe. I don't know if this is by the director or someone who interviewed him, but still. They're going into the extended Predator universe. Now, here's what I think is going to happen, y'all. From all the information. I don't think we're going to see a Xenomorph in the film. I think it's going to be teased. Heavily hinted at. Alright? Here's basically what I think is happening. Dek has been put on... Basically, the part of the story takes place in YAUTJA Prime. Maybe in flashbacks we see what happened to Dek. And Dek was ousted from that planet and taken to this one as a punishment/retribution hunt. He needs to redeem himself through a hunt and hunt down the ultimate predator here, right? He has been put here because he failed a mission granted to him by his dad. His dad told him, go to a fucking crashed derelict ship and retrieve a piece of technology that's very valuable to us. Something that the engineers or space jockeys had. And maybe this could be that technology. Maybe it was a weapon that they were using, and the predators really want this weapon. And in the process of trying to retrieve this piece of tech, Dek makes some very reckless mistakes that causes them to be fucked over. Basically, he doesn't examine the area properly, and that causes them to run into facehuggers head first. And maybe there are some YAUTJA that he comes to this derelict ship with as a hunting party, and he gets all of them killed. A few of them get killed and impregnated by the facehuggers. Alright? The other YAUTJA are not going to love this. His dad's going to be pissed. The entire tribe is going to deem him a disgrace because he got a lot of his fellow members murdered. So, he almost gets killed, sentenced to death. But they give him a second chance. Like, you either die or you go to this planet to redeem yourself. The Death Planet, as we call it. Kalinsk or whatever. And he chooses to go there. So, that's where we get to the events of Predator Badlands. And he has to hunt this thing. This panther creature is the apex predator, in my opinion, that is impossible to kill. That he has to kill. Okay? That is what I think is happening in this story. Now, that leaves a question. What happened to the derelict ship and the facehuggers, the cargo that was in it? Maybe there was some pathogen there as well, who knows? Well, also, there's also a question of what happened to the creatures, the predators that were facehugged. We don't want any Predelian abominations coming out, so there's a chance that they purged all that evidence and kept some of the Xeno eggs to begin basically the YAUTJA's experimentation or hunting processes with the eggs. And this begs the question, is this the first time the YAUTJA have come across Xenomorphs? Because they sent Dek, a runt, an inexperienced predator, to go retrieve some technology. Why? Did they know what this technology was, or maybe they just were curious? Do they know what the Xenomorphs are inside? If we're going based off the comics, because they're apparently according to the director, they are delving into comic books. They're heavily inspired by the comic books, and predators have taken on Xenomorphs in the comic books many fucking times. Maybe this isn't the first time the YAUTJA have faced off against the Xenomorphs. We know in the AVP comics, the YAUTJAs use the Xenomorphs to blood certain predators, certain YAUTJA. Certain YAUTJA have to kill Xenomorphs to become blooded, right? To ascend the ranks. Are they doing that? Had they been doing that? Or is this their first time? Maybe this is a new timeline completely. No AVP shit's canon. Maybe the Alien movies that as we know them, take place in a separate timeline, alternate universe. Maybe some multiverse shit's happening. And this is a new timeline where the YAUTJA have just come across the Xenomorphs. Maybe the YAUTJA have been at war with the engineers, the space jockeys, but this is the first time actually seeing the cargo inside, and that's why they want to see what's inside a crashed derelict spaceship. Their first opportunity to see what's there so they can have an advantage over the fucking engineers. And that brings us to the events of Predator Badlands, where we have Ella Fanning, who plays a Weyland synthetic. I didn't know this, but according to many comments when I was making theory videos about the Predator Badlands trailer, apparently there's two of these synthetics. Apparently there's twins that Ella Fanning is playing. Sister synthetics. One is a good one, and one is rogue. One is evil, working for Weyland, trying to fuck over Dek, using him to get to the grand prize that Weyland has had a hard-on for years and years and years. They want access to that derelict ship with the facehuggers in it. Now, how that they know that the YAUTJA have access to this after Dek's failed mission, I have no idea. We know that Weyland has been on this planet before Dek landed on it. We see their property there. We see the synthetic here probably long before Dek is here. Maybe they were examining this place and following and tracking the predators. Who knows? Weyland Yutani is obsessed with the Xenomorphs. That's the ultimate thing that out of all this, okay? No matter what aliens they find on this planet that Deck is hunting, for some reason they just really want the Xenomorphs badly. The Xenomorphs are the perfect organism. They have the most potential. But regardless, all this is leading to a ultimate vision that Dan Trachtenberg, I believe his name is, and the Alien Romulus director Fede Alvarez, they've already spoken about the fact that they would love to make an AVP movie together. And I believe we're headed in that direction. A lot of people don't want, a lot of my fans, I know a couple, don't want them to cross over. They want to keep their Predator universe separate and the Alien universe separate. Now look, I understand this. I think the franchises have better movies when they're solo. I don't think gimmick movies are that great. Kong vs. Godzilla, they're not the best movies in the Godzilla franchise. They're just not. They're fun, dumbass films. I love Godzilla vs. Kong, the first one, a lot, by the way. But you could argue that Godzilla 2014, Godzilla King of Monsters, even Kong Skull Island are better films. AVP, I believe it takes a certain kind of director and a certain kind of writer to make that work as a horror film that's a crossover. That you do it without the gimmick in it. I believe Fede Alvarez can do it. Because Fede Alvarez focuses on horror rather than action gimmick shit, right? Dan Trachtenberg, I think, is a competent director himself too. It really will come down to how the characters are done. Especially if the YAUTJA is a protagonist in that film too. What usually happens in these films is we have a bunch of dumbass characters that no one cares about, and then we have aliens and predators having cool fights. And you don't really care about either one, because the aliens and predators are just having cool fights, and that's it. And then the humans are all cannon fodder, and the story is just predictable, right? It just becomes a stupid mess with cool fight scenes. That's what these movies come down to. But if you have a YAUTJA as a protagonist taking on Xenomorphs, you have a potential for a good story, because you don't need to focus on dumbass moron side characters in the middle. We'll see how Predator... That's why I think Predator Badlands is being used as a template. They're trying to see how well does it work. Do audiences like a story about a predator being the protagonist? I know that Ella Fanning's in there too, but still. Can they resonate with that? And if they can, good. Our experiment worked. Let's do AVP with a YAUTJA protagonist. Imagine how fucking badass that would be. Or you could just say this is a different timeline from the regular Alien Earth stuff that they have going on, right? Yeah, that's what I would do. I would have this be a completely different timeline. Okay, establish that there's just different timelines for this shit, alright? Those are my thoughts on that. If you want to know my thoughts on Alien Earth and what they're doing with that show right now, you can watch this video over here. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are on a mission to take over Hollywood. But the army must keep growing. If you want to suggest video topics to me, or talk about your favorite movies or favorite film theories in a community with like-minded individuals, join the Zafy Discord now. Link is in the description and the comment section as well. Join us. This movement is just beginning. We're taking over Hollywood, one coke line at a time.